I made 17 counters to the upcoming 7-star Tera Primarina raid coming this weekend and next weekend. Let's get into it. Alright, well, while we don't know exactly which set the Primarina will be using, we do know that it's going to be level 100 and that it's going to be Tera Fairy. So it's going to be a tough battle. It's also going to have its hidden ability, Liquid Voice, which is pretty standard. We can see here that it's going to be using probably Calm Mind. That's its main setup move. So it's going to be increasing its special attack and special defense. And it uses Hyper Voice along with its Liquid Voice ability to make its normal type attack into a water type attack. So it will be getting stab on that. It's a fairy type, so there's a good chance it'll be using Moonblast, and does have a couple of coverage options in Energy Ball. Over here, it can also learn Psychic and Ice Beam. Those are the main coverage options. It doesn't really have a whole lot besides that, although it can run dual screens, and that can cause a little bit of problem. Like I said, we won't know exactly which set it uses until the day comes, but this is kind of what we're working with. Hey, it's me from the future. You might remember me from the intro like a minute ago. I forgot that Primarina learns Shadow Ball as a coverage move. That's going to complicate matters just a little bit, as some of the counters that I've made are kind of weak to Shadow Ball. So if it turns out that Primarina is using it, go ahead and tweak those sets accordingly. When the day comes, I trust that you can figure that out. Okay, thanks. I love you. Bye. I've got a couple of different teams here. We're going to start with the supports. These are Pokemon that aren't going to be in charge of dealing damage. They are just there to help their offensive Pokemon. Up first, we're going to start with Berserker, which is nice because Tera Fairy. I kind of wanted to choose a spicy pick here with the Alolan Muck. It's not a Pokemon that you see in raids all that often, but I think this might be the opportunity to shine here. Being Dark Poison gives it a lot of relevant resistances, and its move pool isn't all that bad, honestly. It gets Clear Smog, so if we know that the Primarina is going to be setting up Calm Mind, we don't have to worry about it. We're only going to be clearing away the stat boosts of the Primarina instead of our allies. Then we've got Acid Spray, which is going to chip away at that special defense stat that'll make way for your special sweepers to come in. If it is running a dual screen set, you can Brick Break it, and that should help you out a lot. And just to round it out, we've got Mud Slap to reduce the accuracy of the target. It's nice. It's kind of slept on as an attack, I think, but we'll use it here just to kind of fill the set. There wasn't another great option, but I think the above ones can get you through. The item is an Assault Vest that should make it so that you should not take very much damage anything Primarina is throwing out. And we're going to be using the Power of Alchemy, which is kind of a unique ability that Alolan Muck gets. It doesn't really have an ability of its own, but when an ally faints, you get that ally's ability, which can be relevant, but is often irrelevant. It's a little silly, I will admit, but I'm interested to see what one abilities I can pick up. The stat spread is going to be another bulky set. We're just maximizing special defense and HP. Again, speed is not important for an Alolan Muck. It doesn't try to outspeed anything, and it never will. So Tentacruel is another bulky water option, just like Milotic, but it plays just a little bit differently. We're using the Assault Vest. That's going to give us that 1.5 times boost to our special defense, and our options are going to be Liquidation to try to reduce defense by 1 stage. I wouldn't rely on it too much because that 20% is not a lot. Acid Spray is just an all-around great move and is poison, which is going to be super effective against Fairy, so we're good there. Throat Chop to shut off the Sparkling Aria or the Hyper Voice. And Skitter Smack is 100% chance to reduce the target's special attack by 1. But being able to reduce the special attack of Primarina is going to help the entire team. They're going to take less damage and they're going to survive longer, which means your timer isn't going to run out as quickly. Yeah. Then we can kind of go back and look at the offensive options. These are a little harder to come by, I will admit. There's not a whole lot of attackers that want to be attacking directly into Primarina. It's bulky. It is a very defensive type. It's only weak to poison and steel, so that's all we really get to focus on unless we want to go for neutral damage coverage. One of the best special attackers in the game is Golden Go. We're going to be using a Shell Bell to get back a bit of HP that we're, from the damage we're dealing. That works out well. For the moves, Flash Cannon, Nasty Plot is there to increase your special attack by 2 stages every time. 3 of those, you maximize out your special attack. Metal Sound is there to lower special defense by 2 stages. That, again, only applies before the shield goes up. And Recover, because Goldigo will probably end up taking quite a bit of damage across the raid. We're going to be maxing HP and special attack. You could do some special defense investment if it turns out this Primarina is doing a lot more damage than we expect. But either way, we don't need our speed and we want our special attack, so we're going to go with a quiet nature. Now, this Scizor is a set that I've been using mostly as a bug type attack, but if we swap out X Scissor for Iron Head, we could probably get pretty good results. We're going to be using a crit build, Tera Steel. This will be one of the better physical attackers, and that might be preferable because Primarina is weaker on the defensive side. So we're going to be using a scope lens, and that helps us by getting a higher crit ratio. Our ability doesn't really matter. So we're going to be using focus energy, which will increase our critical chance. And with the scope lens, it should be pretty much 100% crit. Every attack we have will crit. We can use Leer to decrease the defense of the Primarina prior to shields going up. Iron Head is going to be our attacking move of choice. It is an 80 base power steel type attack. It can make the opponent flinch, but it's probably not relevant. And Swords Dance to boost our attack. The way I've been playing this, I've been going with the focus energy into Swords Dance or vice versa, and then just attacking with Iron Head. I haven't had to use Leer yet. It doesn't really have another good move in that 4th slot. So Leer is a bit of a placeholder, but focus energy, Swords Dance into Iron Head, and a guaranteed crit is pretty insane damage. It won't probably be able to one-shot Primarina because it's a 7-star raid, but we can hold out hope. Going to be maximizing HP just because even though we resist every attacking move that Primarina gets, it gets no fire attacks. We still want to make sure that we're bulky enough. We're going to be maxing out attack, and we don't need any special attacks, so we can just go ahead and give it an adamant nature and call it good. We're going to go Tera Steel, but that's pretty common. I see Tinkaton being referred around a lot on the internet so far in discussions. I'm not super sold on it, and I don't have a great set for it. It's going to be Tera Steel as well with the Gigaton Hammer. It's 160 base power, 100% accurate, but you can't use it twice in a row. So I guess maybe Swords Dance up, then Gigaton Hammer, Metal Sound, Gigaton Hammer, Draining Kiss, Gigaton Hammer. Just kind of pound away. We're going to be using a Metal Coat to boost the steel type attack so that Gigaton Hammer will be hitting even harder. Again, I'm not really sold on it. The defensive typing, Fairy Steel, is pretty good, and then just becoming plain steel will be also pretty good. But this thing's base stats aren't crazy. Just being 85, 75. You're kind of relying on Gigaton Hammer doing a lot of damage, but we're just going to max that out and get rid of our special attack since we won't be using it and kind of call it a day. If we want a poison type attacker, we can use Gengar. Gengar is very squishy. Its special defense stat isn't terrible, and its HP isn't terrible, and its typing isn't terrible, but with Nasty Plot, Sludge Bomb, Acid Spray, and Taunt, it can shut down Primarina's setup and then chip away at its special defense. You're going to be using a Shell Bell so that you can gain HP back with the Sludge Bombs, because those are hitting pretty hard at 90 base power, 100% accurate. We're going to be maxing the HP and the special defense again, and we don't need attack, so we're going to be giving it a calm nature. You can go Poison Terra type to push extra damage, or Steel if defense becomes critical. If you build up enough Terra Charge with early Acid Sprays, you could probably get an early Terra and maybe become more survivable. And I guess the last thing to round it out is abilities. It only gets one, so that's your option. Slowbro is probably the stored power Pokemon of choice. Its other competition is usually Vaporeon, but it's not as specially defensive. If we look at the stats here, 80 and 95 for the HP makes it just a little bit bulkier. Vaporeon's HP stat is pretty good though, so I didn't do the damage calc because we don't have that information yet, but my gut feeling is Slowbro is better because it gets Slack Off, which is just a consistent recovery move. whereas Vaporeon has to rely on Aqua Ring or leftovers or janky stuff like that. So you're not gonna worry about it too much. I think that light screen maybe isn't necessary. You should probably be relying on a teammate to do light screen. And the main mission here is just get 6 Calm Mines, then start firing off stored power. We are going to be maxing our offensive abilities, so special attack and HP are going to be most important here. I did put special defense as our positive nature. We're going to be using Calm. You could certainly switch that up and go for a modest nature, or you could even just swap it around. Whatever ends up being more effective day of, you know, since we don't know what we're going into exactly quite yet, we can just, either one of those will technically work. Since we are going to be boosting our special attack by quite a bit, we don't necessarily need to worry. And they end up being equal if we do it this way. So it's an option. And King Gambit is another option. I'm not super happy with this option. I don't think it's great, but if Primarina ends up reducing our stats a lot, Defiance becomes a very good ability. Gets us a free Swords Dance every time. So if it's spamming Moonblast and we get drops off of that, so we do Swords Dance, Iron Head, Leer, and Taunt with a Metal Coat to just try to push Steel type damage. HP is going to be maxed out, as well as special defense. You could again swap this. I don't know how confident I am in base 85 special defense with only 100 HP. It might be high, it might be low. It's kind of hard to tell in the moment. So once the raid actually comes out and we see how much damage we're dealing with and what the set is, we can reevaluate then. So with the support and offense aside, we can look at some legendary options. I tried to keep these limited because I know not everybody has immediate access to them, and they're late game options. They can be kind of hard to obtain. I wanted to put out 2 Arceus forms, and I went first with the Steel Arceus just because it's probably the more effective of the 2. Acid Spray, Judgment, Calm Mind, and Recover gives you great longevity and huge damage. We are going to maxing out our HP and special attack. This should probably be the highest amount of damage you can push. Even Golden Go might have a hard time doing that much damage. I did pretty much the same thing with Arceus Poison. Poison might be preferable because Primarina is still weak to poison after shield goes down. The same stat spread, but once the shield goes down, it goes back to being a water fairy Pokemon and then resists steel. So it might be a little bit harder to close out the game with a steel type than it would be with a poison type. The crown for hardest hitting steel type attacker is probably Zacian Crown on the physical side, I should say. It is going to be getting a +1 attack immediately just by entering the battle, which you can then boost with Swords Dance. Behemoth Blade hits crazy with 100 base power, 100% accuracy, and coming off of a base 150 attacking stat is going to be doing a lot of damage. We also use Snarl. Snarl rounds out the moveset by dropping the special attack. That helps you stay in the fight longer. That helps your team stay in the fight longer. Crunch is an option for lowering defense by 1 stage 20% of the time. I wouldn't rely on it, but you really don't need any other moves than Sword Stance and Behemoth Blade. We're going to be maxing out HP and attack, which is going to give us this crazy 438. That is a wild amount of damage. Behemoth Blade should be pretty good. I went with a Brave Nature. Again, speed is not going to be terribly important, but you certainly could go Adamant. Then the nice thing about Mew is that it's usable in every single raid. You can tailor it to what you need. So I went with an Acid Spray, Light Screen, Life Dew, and Sunny Day set, just in case Primarina ends up setting up Rain. There's a good chance that it will. We don't know if it will, though, so this could be tweaked day of to get rid of Sunny Day. We are going to be using a stat spread that's going to prioritize HP and special defense. This is more of a support set, whereas the other 3 sets have been offensive sets. I think that a Sassy Nature should be preferable here. You're not using speed. and your special defense is important. You want to be staying in the fight. You're supporting your team with the life dew, so the longer that you're alive, the better. And use leftovers, or if you are going to use this light screen, you can use light clay. All right, then we're going to round it out with Mewtwo, because Mewtwo is just one of the hardest hitting Pokemon in the game. We're going to be giving it a Calm Mind, Recover, and Psy Strike set. You can flex out any other move in the 4th slot. It doesn't really matter. I don't even have an item for it because, frankly, I don't know what it really needs. Like, you could toss on leftovers and it'll just kind of recover, or, you know, whatever you feel works here. It's mostly just going to be outputting raw damage. So if you give it like a item that boosts its psychic attacks, I think Twisted Spoon wouldn't be the worst option. We're going to choose Psy Strike to be hitting on the Primarina's weaker defensive side rather than special defense. And like I said, 4th move slot, dealer's choice. We're going to be maxing out HP and special attack. And you can give it a Modest Nature just to push more damage. Really all it is. At the end here, I do have a little bit of a side note. These are 2 Pokemon that I've seen in conversation that I would recommend against. Iron Hands is a part fighting type. It relies a lot on Drain Punch, which is not going to be very effective into Fairy Primarina. You're not going to be getting as much HP back, and you're probably going to get knocked out as soon as you Belly Drum. So I would recommend staying away from Iron Hands this raid. I know it's very tempting to use. I wouldn't recommend it here. I also see Clodsire in the conversation a lot because it gets water absorbed, so it would be resistant to fairy type attacks because it's poison type, and immune to water type attacks because it's water absorbed. It still is going to get hit pretty hard by ice type attacks, so if it has, Primarina has Ice Beam, it won't have a great time. It is bulky. You can give it an Assault Vest, which would help with its special defense, and you can, let's say, max that out with a Positive Nature. Don't need speed. But if we look at it here, 328 and 464 HP is a lot, but I don't think that it should be your first choice. There are other options, and that's kind of what this video was for, is to explain that you don't have to use a Clodsire every time. Use a Belly Bolt. Switch it up. Belly Bolt is great. People should use Belly Bolt more often. So, yeah. Hey, thanks for watching. If you made it to the end, that's pretty cool of you. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. It helps me a lot. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/subseedstall. I stream Tera raids a lot, and I help people who need to complete raids. So if an event raid is giving you some trouble, why don't you stop by and we can get it done together? Special thanks to my subbies. They make this all possible. If you want to see your name at the end of the video, subscribe to my Twitch or YouTube and I'll add you to the list. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye.